Om Jai Swaha Mata.
Devotees, tonight's discourse is one that is very well known and I dare say very well loved. I have mentioned that there are different relationships that we can have with that divine. God we can consider as mother, as father. God can be considered as a master, I am the servant, Das Bhav. As a gopi is displayed, Madhurya Bhav, God is the beloved. As Mata Yashoda, Nand Baba, Vasudev, Devaki, they display the different relationship where God is a child and they, the devotee, happen to be the parents. Vatsal Bhav, that is called. Tonight, we are going to look at one we call Sakhya Bhav, where God is the friend. Tvameva Mata Chapita Tvameva, Tvameva Bandhu Sakha Tvameva. We all have a relationship, or we are supposed to have a relationship with God. I have asked this many times. We all pray to God. Who is God to me? Man is gregarious by nature. Man understands relationships. Relationships inform behavioral pattern, attitudes, etc. If I know you're a friend, as opposed to being father, I behave differently with you as a friend as I would behave with a father. It's common sense. So I pray to God, who is He to me? How do I behave in this relationship? How do I speak with that Lord? As a das, a servant speaking to the master, as a child speaking to the parent, as a parent speaking to the child, as one speaking to a beloved, as a friend speaking to a friend. I have mentioned devotees, all the Sanskrit invocations and mantras and so on are nice. But all these have been composed by sages in a certain level of spirituality, enlightenment. We just regurgitate these. But could we have the same bhav that those sages have when they compose those? For us, they are merely words. So I learn a few mantras and I say them. Sometimes I don't even fully understand the meaning. And even if I understand the meaning, the true purpose, the essence of it, I don't get it. I just mechanically pray. So I have suggested that whenever we pray, we always find some time to speak in our own language, in our own words, our own feelings. And I drew the analogy, the example, when those kanyas in the village of Braj, in the month of Agahan, would worship Katyayani Devi. What was their mantra? Sri Sukadevji said. Their mantra was simple. I want Lord Krishna as my husband. I want Lord Krishna as my husband. I want Lord Krishna as my husband. That was their mantra. But the bhav with which they said it, mantra, man means mind, tra means that which attracts. So if I say so-called mantras and these don't come from inside, they are just words I regurgitate. Now, if I have to speak to you, as I mentioned, I know I have to understand the relationship. So devotees, I have to establish that relationship. How I go to God, so God comes to me. So this is the question I have asked. Who is God to you? Don't tell me God. We don't know who God is or what God is. But I understand mother, I understand father, I understand friend. Some of us may even understand enemy. Advesh Bhakti, Vidvesh Bhakti, according to Bhagavad Mahapuran. So we have to establish that relationship. So we have many examples. So the gopis, they went to Bhagwan as a beloved. Mirabai, Bhagwan was a beloved. Mata Yashoda, as I mentioned, Vatsal Bhav. Devotees. Arjun, the great Pandav prince, Bhagwan was his friend. And here an outstanding example of Sakhya Bhav, a great Brahmin whose name was Sudama. Sakhya Bhav, what friendship is supposed to be like. And this may be alien to many people's minds. But you see, devotees, Hinduism provides a pathway for every single individual to go to that divine. But we establish the relationship based upon our empowerment. And I take one step towards God, He takes 100 steps towards me. So if you have not yet established a relationship with God, I think you should analyze right now where you are sitting and establish it in your own heart. Based upon your bhav, your feelings. God, you are my mother, you are my father. Oh God, you are my friend. And it's for good psychological reasons. Once in my teaching career, I had a co-worker, non-Hindu of course. So we had discussions. She knew I was a Pandit, Hindu priest they would say. So she asked me, she said, Mr. Prasad, how come Hindus have God as mother and as father and as this and as that? Well, I said, it's a common sense thing. If I tell you God is father, and you have a father who has abused you from childhood going right up to old age, could you love him? Could you identify with him? And I am told to love God as a father. She started to cry. I said, why are you crying? I don't know, maybe God guided me, I hit the nail on the head. She was being abused by her father from since she was a child growing up. She was an adult now. But yet, she had to consider God as a father, according to Christian theology, of our Father who art in heaven. Now, how could you love God as a father when psychologically you are scarred and you cannot accept that kind of relationship? Hinduism deals with the psyche of man. God is how you consider him to be. Mother, father, friend, etc. So you see, we give everybody a chance. Hinduism does allow you to choose that pathway so that nobody is alienated. Whichever pathway you choose, it's the right pathway for you based upon your temperament. And devotees, you do not have to feel, that you're doing something wrong if you worship God as a mother and somebody else worship God as a father. Remember, the key to prayer is your feelings, the bhav. And that depends upon the relationship. So get that clear. Okay? So your own personal prayer, each person should establish that relationship with that divine. Who or what is that divine to you? Is that divine he? Is it she? Is it it? I don't know. Nobody knows Brahm. Brahm is an indefinable, unknown, beyond the unknown. So therefore I start from where I am, the known, based upon my condition. So devotees, that is the first lesson I want to present, and I want you to analyze it closely. Many may say, I've been praying 50, 60, 70 years. I have never heard this before, I never did this before. Maybe this is why you are still where you are at. If you change the philosophy and establish a relationship and see, maybe the next moment could be a defining moment in your life. Try it. Don't try it, do it. Because these lessons are sanctioned by scriptures. It is not from my head. Sanctioned by scriptures. And every night we sing Tvameva Mata Javida Tvameva. Every night we sing it. But mechanical. Sing it nice tune. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. And we go about our business. Not even thinking about what we are saying. Focus, devotees. So, we are looking at a little katha that is based upon this Sakhya Bhav. And there are many lessons otherwise. So, devotees, let me get into the katha. See, Sukdev ji reading katha to Raja Parikshit. So, I'll put it in simple way. See, Sukdev ji bole ke he param bhagavat Raja Parikshit. कोई एक ब्राह्मण ब्रह्म के जानने वालों में उत्तम, विषयों में वैराग्यवान, शांत मन, जितेंद्रिय श्री कृष्णचंद्र का मित्र था। वह गृहस्थ आश्रम में रहता था और जो कुछ अनायास प्राप्त हो उसी से अपना निर्वाह करता था। जीर्ण वस्त्र को धारण किए उसी प्रकार उसकी स्त्री भी थी। क्षुधा के मारे पीड़ित होने से समस्त अंगों से कृशित, और जो अन्न प्राप्त हो उसे पति को परोस दे, आप भूखी रह जाए। बहुत दुखित और भय के मारे थर थर कांपती वह पतिव्रता श्री दरिद्री पति के समीप बोली। श्री सुखदेव जी saying, O sages, once in a certain village there was a Brahman, ब्रह्म के जानने वाला, who knew Brahm, who identified with Brahm. Now devotees, again I go back to a philosophy I practice. You hear a statement, you get a general idea. When you break down the statement into words, you can get deeper ideas. And according to Shaivism, each word has Shakti, Matrika Chakra. When you break the words down into letters, you can get even deeper meaning. Tonight, I wouldn't break the words down into letters, but I'm breaking the sentences down into words. Now here, there's a Brahman, एक ब्राह्मण, ब्रह्म के जानने वालों. He knew Brahm, absorbed in Brahm consciousness. Why am I emphasizing this statement, devotees? Because there are those in society who want to tell us that once a person realizes Brahm, he is a Brahman. Now I don't know how they know Brahm. Now I am looking at this statement here. Sri Sukdev Ji, he is saying there was a Brahman who recognized Brahm. And if you read into that statement, it means that you can have Brahmins who did not recognize Brahm. So that statement that people make, once you recognize Brahm, you are Brahman, is not so. This is logic. But logic, not so easy either. Not so easy. So follow what I am saying. If anybody who recognized Brahm is a Brahman, there was no need for Sukdev Ji to say, there was this Brahman who recognized Brahm. He made that statement because he was a Brahman amongst many Brahmins who didn't recognize Brahm. He recognized Brahm. He lived in that consciousness. Bear that in mind. Some people say you could make yourself into a Brahman. Gita says, Janman karma. You have to be born into it and maintain the karma. Otherwise you could become a Brahm Rakshas. But if you want to perform the karmas to make yourself into that, I've always asked the question, who determines when you qualify? Who determines that? Is there a board of scholars will say, okay, Haridev, you live like a Brahman, so now you are Brahman? Who decides that? A fellow told me, the Guru decides. If you have a Guru who's not a Brahman, but he wants to make everybody Brahman, so he will say, yes, you live in the karma, you are Brahman. Confusion, chaos. Now I don't want to emphasize too much upon this, because this doesn't really lead us in any particular direction. But sometimes I like to challenge the pseudo-intellectuals who don't understand our scriptures, and they say what they would like to see happen, what they believe should happen, not what is really practiced and what has been from here since time immemorial. I will leave it at that. Devotees, what was so great about this Brahman in that he was absorbed in Brahm? Vishayo mein vairagyavan. He lived in the material world, the pitch of poisons, the poisons of materialism all around, but he lived vairagyavan in a dispassionate state. He was not affected by any of material things around us. And we have been saying in the Yagya, Trishna, cravings. We all have cravings. Material cravings. Very few have spiritual cravings. The Trishna. So you're caught up in the world of materialism. The poisons of materialism. So we are not dispassionate. We are attracted to these things. This Brahman devotees didn't want anything. He had no desires for any of these material things. He lived a life of dispassion. And the next word is important. Shantaman. He had a peaceful mind. Desires unfulfilled lead to anger. From anger, loss of reason. Loss of reason, self-destruction. Once you have cravings, there is no shantaman. You have chanchalman. Unstable mind, fickle mind, jumping all over. You can sit to pray to God and still not constant. You want to pray to God, oh Lord, Saturday, give me these 6 numbers. You want to become a millionaire overnight. So you think you're praying to God, but your mind, I wonder what the 6 numbers are. Are you really praying? No shantaman, chanchalman, fickle, like a frog, or like a kite, ducking also, like a monkey, jumping from branch to branch. But what causes shantaman? Vairagya, dispassion. Withdrawal of the senses from material things all around. And devotees, I have mentioned that Shivaji symbolizes the state of dispassion. He is in the world but not of the world. He is Shantras, as Ramayana says. He is the essence of peace personified. So if I were to take it from that perspective, Sudama Brahman, he had Shivaji strong inside his heart, in the form of Vairagya, dispassion, in the form of peace. And that eludes us, devotees, peace. Shantaman. When there is Shantaman, what follows? Jitendriya. You control all these senses. We perceive this physical world through the senses. Gyan Indriyas, and we perform actions through the Karam Indriyas. What controls the senses? The mind. What controls the mind? The intellect. If this Brahman is absorbed in Brahm, purified intellect, Shantaman, therefore the senses have to be brought under control. It's a journey. It's what we have to achieve. So devotees, these are just words, but analyze what I'm trying to put to you. Most of us, ears go one direction, eyes go one direction, tactile sense different, the olfactory sense different. Like horses pulling a chariot different directions. Before very long, chariot mash up. And this is what happens to us. Devotees, and now the final qualification. Well, not qualification, not the final one, but next statement. Important, perhaps. His previous qualities will lead up to this. Sri Krishna Chandra ka mitra tha. He was the friend of Bhagavan Sri Krishna. If Bhagavan is your friend, do you need anything? Do you lack anything? So I want you to pay attention, devotees, to some of these things I mentioned to you. Like, the Vairagya, the Shantaman, control of the senses. That attachment, relationship with the Lord. How could you go wrong when you have these conditions existing in your life? He wasn't living in a cave. Vaha grihas ashram mein rahata tha. He lived in the householder stage. There are 4 stages in human development. Brahmacharya, which we are told is up to 25 years of age. The student stage. It is said the brain functions with maximum efficiency up to the age of 25. So we are told, up to 25 years, study, acquire all your qualifications, prepare yourself to fit into Grihas Ashram so you can repay your debt of gratitude to society. But of course, if you follow what scriptures say here, all this child marriage thing, and I don't want to digress, all this child marriage thing should not be. Those things have been done for maybe political reasons, more social reasons, not for spiritual reasons. And then when they talk about that, when children having children, they're immature, irresponsible, the family structure is different. No wonder society is in the condition we have it in today. Because we're not following the systems. We are not. And this is why, devotees, I am one who strongly recommend that we should lift the marriage age. Make it 18. You could vote at 18. You get your marriage, your driver's license 17. I give you 1 year extra. At least get some basic qualifications. The girls, that is. Basic qualification. There's a certain level of maturity so you can shoulder your responsibilities. Not before that. And if I may just add, you see that early marriage? Long ago the family structure was different. Everybody lived in the same house, like barracks, You have the children, you have grandchildren, you have Aji, Aja, you have Mamu or Kaka, Dada. Everybody live in the same house. Long ago. extended family. A young child gets married and come into that home, you have many experienced people to guide them. So the structure allowed for that. Today, from the time you get married, whether 16, 17, 18, you're gone in your own apartment. Nobody there to support you, or they're far away. So all you fight for yourself. You struggle along, immaturity, irresponsibility. The structure is different. The conditions are different. You're going to have problems. This is common sense. The common sense not so common. Some people say, Hindu must get married 14 years. As if to be a Hindu, you must get married 14 years. Some people can't let go of this dinosaurian kind of attitude and belief that they have. It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate. They don't see the changing times, changing attitudes, changing challenges, which we need to readjust and adapt to. So we talk about it and hope that at some point in time, good sense will prevail. So devotees, 25 years. Give yourself a chance. Normally I tell these young fellas, 21, 22, Baba, I like a girl. I say, hold on. Give yourself a few years again. Next year you like a next girl. So you're good. You can't make up your mind. You see, immaturity. Get married quick, break up quick, life become a mess. Take your time, devotees. Second stage, Grihas Ashram, householder stage. They say this from 25 years to over 55 years of age. Where, you have your family, we pay a debt of gratitude to society, etc. If you live to be 55, and that's a big if in today's world, from 55 to 75, vanprast, you begin to let go. Tyag. You don't cling on till you drop dead, and then leave a vacuum. You start to let go. My father always said, if you have to die, when you have to die, die a pauper. Don't die clinging on to everything, no? Because the man might die after that fighting for what you cling on to. Put everything in place. 55 to 75. Let go, let go. Let everybody go and shoulder their responsibilities. You are there as a protector if anything goes wrong. And if you live to 75, you should let go everything. Become a sannyasi, so to speak. You have to go to the forest. But home, a frugal life. As my father said to us, die a pauper. In the sense that no cravings, be simple, and you never have problems. Devotees, if a person could follow these steps in development, life would be a divine song. And not only that, these stages have been created based upon the changes in man. What you could do when you're 15, 20 years old, you can't do when you're 80, 85 years old. But sometimes man reach 80 years and he plain young man 20 years. You kill yourself. So you have to adjust to the ravages of time. Common sense tells us that. Grow old gracefully. And the older you grow, more spiritual you become. The journey is more spiritual than material. Okay? Common sense lessons, devotees. Again that I say, not so common sense. Cravings, cravings, cravings. Trishna, killing man. This Brahman lived in Grihas Ashram. No big house, something, no? Little hut. And devotees, when the priests would go out, they get little seed handing, little dakshina they get. Whatever he would get unsolicited, he will take home and give it to his wife. And I like to emphasize on the word unsolicited. I don't know what I mean now. I mean he never demand anything from anybody. In today's world we have plenty Baba. They have the card and they have the price tag. Hanuman Puja, $300. If it's so cheap, I don't know. This, so much money. A year, 10,000. But you working. You're not serving God. You are a businessman. Our scriptures tell us, our lineage tells us, coming from this Brahman lineage, do what you have to do. Dakshina is what you want to offer. I can't demand from you. And I will never do it. I have never done it. Venush, and neither will ever do it. People ask me many times, Baba, I feel bad to ask, but tell me now, how much for the year? I say, what do you mean, how much for the year? Don't embarrass me. I am doing what I have to do. You offer your dakshina as you see fit. And devotees, my dakshina have started from 5 or 6 grains of dashin bush bhaji to dakshina, good dakshina. the spectrum. You take everything quiet and you go home with it. The only thing is when they go to gas station and tell them, I want 5 Dashan Bush stem up gas. They say, they don't take Dashan Bush. You know. But anyway, you still don't make demands. You should not. Devotees, I find that it is against conscience to do such a thing. And many people have complained. They carry the Siddha for the Baba, Dakshina Baba say, double up, double up, double up. You know the people's means? But let's not go into all that. Devotees, whoever does these things, they are doing a disservice to themselves. It's greed is causing that. This is service. This is seva. Serve the master. This Brahman devotees, whatever he got, never questioned. You know why? He didn't have a craving mind. Shantaman, a peaceful mind, vairagya. What he will do with all this? Whatever you give, Ketan give it to his wife. Patni, you do whatever it is. But I can guarantee you, it wasn't very much in those days. His clothing, old and worn out. His wife, he was married. Grihastha ashram, mean he had a wife. And devotees, behind every great man there is a greater woman. Whether the man is a success or a failure. And the woman had to be a wife, you know. It could be a wife, it could be a mother, it could be a sister, it could be a daughter. This is the Shakti. And most times when you say a man falls short, it's a woman also, but not his wife, it could be somebody else's wife. You understand what I mean? Loose living. But wherever it is, the mothers, sisters and daughters, you have that power. If you can give that right support, men could achieve anything together with you. And if you don't do the right things also, you can destroy anybody. This Brahmani was a pativrata. In mind, word and deed, she was devoted to the husband. Any Baba could go home today and tell his wife, I get a handful of rice, and the wife could have one sari only. She leave he long time and go and get somebody else who could buy more sari for she. Very few will be able to put up with this. But this woman stood there. When they got anything, she would cook it and give it to the Brahman, and she would go hungry. Pativrata dharma, pativrata shakti, devotees, duty of a married wife. I don't know how the word married wife come out my mouth, but you know you could have wife who not married too. So I am talking about those wives who have taken their vows and so on. Better say, you have to maintain your duty. And you know, the Western world will want to make you feel that the Hindus make you subservient. But I told this in your mind. The Western world want to liberate you, the body. Feel free. Loaf, do anything you want, but entrap your soul. The Eastern mind says, put the body under bondage, no problem, but free your mind. Free your soul. You decide which way you want to go. Work is worship, duty is God. Maintain your duty. I won't elaborate on Pativrata Dharma tonight, devotees. And this is the last night, so I won't have time to elaborate ever again. So we go on. This woman was very, very, what can we say? Outstanding. Outstanding, really Shakti. So, time passed. But devotees, how long could people bear this type of suffering that they underwent? These two underwent. Brahman, his mind occupied in higher things, but the wife was at home. And devotees, I am the first to admit, I am outside, going all about, praying, singing, whatever. Wife is at home taking care of the children. That happened for me back in the past. Sometimes groceries in the house and I don't know. She had to make do. The wife, she has to undergo these sacrifices. This is why I always say, God bless them. They are the Lakshmis in the home. Without them, we can't survive, devotees. We can't survive. I look at my example with my father and my mother. My father, big Pandit, never knew I could even read Hindi. He never knew. My mother taught me. And I always remember one Diwali night, I was about 4 years at that time. Papa go holy puja, come back home in the night with the Siddha bag in his hand. While coming up into the house, you hear a little girl sing in my mind. A little girl. When he wished who the little girl was, how do yourself? When you're small, your voice like a little girl one. No? Book we should make quiet here. But singing, I could read anything. Chaupai. Papa remains with the mouth open. He never knew his son could read our mind. Who helped? Who did it? Ma. Ma. See? So the kind of sacrifices mothers make. And this is why sometimes I tell husbands, and I tell myself too, we become very arrogant and angry and so on, and want to get vexed with them. But try to, if you put yourself in their position for one day, you run. You can't make it. You can't make it.
Om Jai Swaha Mata Maya Jai Swaha Mata Tum Agni ki Shakti Tum Agni ki Shakti Tum Sachi Mata